uBlock Origin, among many other extensions for blocking advertising on Chrome, is one of the most powerful extensions, and I've been using it for years. And now finally it is time to say goodbye, because Chrome is doing a few things where this extension would become impossible to run. What this is, how all of this is going on, let's discuss in this specific video. So all of this started with something known as Manifest v3, and if you don't know what this is, we'll figure it out. We'll discuss in this video what this manifest means and why this is the core reason of why Chrome is able to block the uBlock Origin extension itself and what this means for the future. So let's talk about Chrome extensions a bit, right? So you can see I have a lot of these extensions in my toolbar. Also, you can see over here on the top right, and I have one of the extensions which I also have is this uBlock Origin, right? Which is off for now for TLDraw. So how Chrome extensions fundamentally work is, of course, they have source code, which is like how the extension works or what the extension does, right? But on top of this, there is a file called as manifest.json. So there is a very interesting file called manifest.json which exists in every single Chrome extension, right? So what this file does is that it's like a metadata file for your extension itself, like how your extension is supposed to behave, what sort of APIs it has access to. So for example, let's say if I go ahead and if I click on this view web permissions, you're going to see that uBlock Origin in my specific case has all of these access, right? So it has access to location, camera, like it can ask for it. I mean, this is not exactly what I wanted to show you. So let me just download this extension once. So you can see over here, this is the source code of uBlock Origin Chrome extension itself, and you can see like you have background.html and all of these files. But you also have this one file called manifest.json, right? And if I open this file real quick in VS Code once and zoom in a little bit, you're gonna see that there are a bunch of things which you can do in this file. But most importantly, the version over here is manifest version 2, right? So this is the version which I'm talking about. There is also another version over here, which is the version of the extension itself. But this manifest version 2 is the version of the manifest which is following. Now what happens with this is that manifest.json has 3 versions right now, right? So it has version 1, then you have version 2, and then now very recently Chrome is rolling out with version 3, right? And it already has support for that, but it's making it sort of mandatory to run extensions in version 3. So every single version of the manifest, so for example, if I specify version 1 over here, that would mean that I have access to specific APIs. Go ahead and Google Chrome manifest v1 and take a look at this documentation. So version 1 is deprecated very like in past, very much in past. It's probably like close to 10 years. So you can see Chrome released manifest version 2 in February 6, 2013, right? And it deprecated v1. So what usually was the case with version 1 was that it followed a lot of things which were improved in version 2, right? From a security point of view, from a feature point of view. So that is why Chrome said that, okay, instead of v1, we will just deprecate v1 and we will start working on v2, which is the new set of functionality. This was a very powerful version because every single extension which you use right now is running on version 2 for the most part. It introduced background script, it introduced the ability to have very granular permissions. So if you go ahead and take a look over here, you can see that uBlock Origin requests permissions like this, that it wants access to your alarms, it wants access to your context menu, because when I click on, let's say if I click on this and if I, right click or something, you can see that uBlock Origin has this block element thing. So this is the context menu. So it needs like all of these things, unlimited storage, web navigation, access to all URLs and so on. So all of this was not possible in v1. Now what's happening in v3 is interesting, because now what Chrome has realized, what Google has realized, is that v2 is extremely powerful. It's more than powerful that they would want. This is like extreme power. So in v3, what they're trying to do is neuter that power a little bit. So if you look at this blog which highlights version changes in v2 versus v3, you're going to see that there are some significant differences. Fundamentally, the biggest blockers for uBlock Origin as an extension is that there are certain controls that have been taken away from v2, right? For example, some of the things which I feel is that real-time request monitoring. So there is an API called as chrome.webRequest available inside Chrome extensions, right? In V2, which is now not there. So you can see this last point, removal of certain APIs like Chrome.web request in favor of more secure alternative. Secure alternative being the key term here. That is how Chrome is selling V3, Google is selling V3 Dream in general, is that they're saying that, hey, this is good for ecosystem, this is good for broader scheme of things, and so on and so forth. But what they're effectively doing is making it extremely weak in terms of for extensions like uBlock Origin to operate. If you take a look at this, Chrome.web request is an extremely powerful API to observe, analyze traffic, and to intercept, block, or modify requests in flight. They have now completely removed this and they have switched this to a declarative net request API, which is the alternative for this, but it's a weaker alternative, right? Because you have to specify the rules ahead of time. So they can't be like created on the fly. Then among other things, right? So for example, there are a few differences here and there in terms of API surfaces being changes, number of filters you are allowed to have. So there are all those limits which are introduced. Now you might be wondering like why Google is doing this at all. So well, it's not a new thing. You can see this issue was opened in uBlock Origin's repository 6 years ago when Chrome had already started phasing out V2 and they had started planning up for V3. So Chrome, it's not like it took like 12 years for them to realize that we have given way too much power. Chrome and Google fundamentally is an advertising company, right? And once they have given so much power to softwares like AdBlock and uBlock Origin, they realize that there is a huge customer base who's installing this. For example, if you look at uBlock Origin, 40 million people have this installed. If you look at this AdGuard ad blocker, you will see 14 million people again. If you look at AdBlock Plus, you will see 43 million people and so on. And I'm assuming like, yeah, sure, like some of them would be shared, but a lot of them are independent users or independent devices, right? So you easily have close to like about 100, 200 million people using internet who are actively blocking ads, right? And most of them might not have installed those extensions by themselves. Maybe somebody from their family or somebody suggested them, or they just installed it on their systems. For example, I have it installed on my parents' computers, so they don't even know like uBlock Origin, what it is and so on. But people like that exist, right? So what Google probably is trying to do is limit what sort of impact these extensions can have on advertising and advertisers by blocking their permission model in the V3. And now from 6 years after this issue has been opened, it's becoming a reality because Chrome would be finally shipping V3 soon enough. So you can see June 2024 was the consumer deprecation date, right, where they have started to show these big warnings on extension pages that it might not be supported soon enough. And if you click on learn more, it just shows you like how to uninstall the extension, which is crazy, right? I mean, obviously you can't fight Google or anything as such in terms of like what they want to do. They will do what they want to do. But uBlock Origin has created a manifest V3 version, MV3 Lite version, which is they are naming as uBlock Origin Lite, right? So this version is entirely declarative, meaning there is no need for permanent uBlock processes for filtering to occur, and the CSS/JS injection based content filtering is performed reliably by the browser itself rather than by the extension. So what this effectively means is that we are able to sort of work around the limitations which MV3 imposed with the newer APIs. This means that uBlock Origin itself does not consume CPU memory resources while the content blocking is ongoing. uBlock Origin's service worker process is required only when you interact with the pop-up panel or the options pages. It also does not require now read modify data permission at install time, hence its limited capabilities out of the box compared to uBlock Origin, right? Because now you can't ask for these broad permissions with the manifest V3 version because they just don't have that as an option. However, it allows you to explicitly grant extended permissions on specific sites of your choice so that it can better filter on those websites using declarative, cosmetic, and scriptlet injections, which you effectively would want to do on every site, right? If you're opting in for an extension like this, you would want uBlock Origin to automatically work on every single website. Then, of course, browser will warn you to, that it can read and change your data on every website, which you are like every page on the website, and then it will be able to block properly, right? So what Chrome has effectively done is that they have created a lot of friction for the end users to make uBlock Origin work, and this friction might not affect people like you and me who are watching this video, who understand and trust uBlock because their source is open code, so you might as well just build this extension yourself. But it creates a lot of problems for people who don't know and who are not technical enough. and these 100 million people, which I showed you, the people who have these ad blockers and all of these things installed, out of them, I'm pretty sure like not more than 5% of the people are sophisticated enough to understand that this is okay to do, right? And in most cases, you should not probably do this also if this is like a random extension or something. You should only do it for things you are really trusting, right? Like uBlock. So yeah, this would indeed achieve the effect that Google and Chrome team would want, that most of the people don't use things like this, because even if you install it, this pop-up is scary enough that most people who don't know what the hell uBlock is, they'll just click on deny, right? And that will just make it less effective in terms of blocking. However, Firefox has taken an interesting bet on this, right? So Firefox also supports Chrome extensions in a way. So I mean, it doesn't exactly support Chrome extensions, but it supports like a similar API, which is called as Web Extensions API, which is very similar to how you would even write a Chrome extension, right? So just a few things are changed here and there. So for example, if you're writing something like chrome.tabs. something query or whatever, instead of this, inside of Firefox, what you will write is browser.tabs.query, something like that, right? So you can have those web extension APIs and polyfills available inside Firefox, and with minimal changes to your extension code, you can also make it run on Firefox. Firefox also supports manifest concept. So just like Chrome, it supports that. It decided to move to, like I mentioned, web extensions in 2015, right? So it created a sort of an API, and it is adopting manifest v3, right? So you can see, like it says that today many cross-platform extensions require only minimal changes to work across major browsers. We consider this move to be long-term success, and we remain committed to the model. The reason it makes so much sense is because if you are an application or an extension developer, you would probably develop extension on Chrome first because of its massive usage, and then you want to make it available to other browsers, right? If you can do it with minimal changes, then why not? That means Firefox has to keep in touch with Chrome as well. So why is manifest version 3 important to improving web extensions? Well, you see, it's the next iteration of web extension and offers opportunity to introduce improvements that otherwise would not be possible due to concerns with backwards compatibility. MV2 had architectural constraints that make some issues difficult to address. With MV3, we are able to make changes to address this. So see, like obviously not everything is evil. A lot of decisions in MV3 are also like genuinely performance based and genuinely like, you know, good decisions in terms of improving your system's reliability and compute and power efficiency. One of the core problems, for example, they say is the background page architecture, which lives forever by design, right? So if you look at uBlock Origin, and if I go inside these details, you can see there is this background.html page which is continuously running, right? So this is the limitation which Firefox is saying, that in the version 2, there is an architecture where background page lives on forever. Due to memory or platform constraints like on Android, we can't guarantee the state, and the termination of the background page along with the extension is sometimes inevitable, right? So if your extension relies on the behavior that this page is living on forever, you know, in terms of some critical reliability of extension to work properly, then this reliability is broken on some platforms like Android or some memory constrained platforms. In MV3, they re-architected it in such a way that background scripts must be designed to be restartable, like service workers, right? Another core part of extensions are content scripts to directly interact with the pages. We are blocking unsafe coding practices and offering more secure alternatives. So all of that, and you can see over here, web requests. One of the most controversial changes of Chrome's MV3 approach is the removal of blocking web requests, which is exactly the APIs which extensions like uBlock need, which provides a level of power and flexibility that is critical to enabling advanced privacy and content blocking features. Well, of course, it also has the power of, you know, if you have a bad extension or a rogue extension that is doing just random things, of course, you can also harm your users in that way. But Chrome's solution in MV3 is to define a more narrowly scoped API as a replacement. However, this will limit capabilities of certain types of privacy extensions without adequate replacement. So Mozilla is saying that we will maintain support for blocking web requests in MV3. To maximize the compatibility with other browsers, we'll also ship support for declarative net requests. So this declarative net request is the sort of alternative which Chrome has released for the deprecation of web request API, but Firefox is saying that we are taking a fork from here, like in terms of the APIs we support. We are not going to remove web request, and we will keep it in MV3 also, which is very interesting take, because now in a way, like, you have to sort of, if you are writing uBlock Origin source code, then when you're writing the source code, you have to write maybe separate code for Firefox, separate code for Chrome, and that is how it will work. Chrome's version of MV3 also introduced background service worker as a replacement for persistent background pages, right? Mozilla is working on extension service workers in Firefox for compatibility reasons, but also because we like that they are an event-driven environment with defined lifetimes. Now, this is a little bit about service workers, and I would love to discuss service workers more in detail. We use it extensively on Fermyon. So if you check out Fermyon, you would see that. Let me just show you a quick example. So you see that if I visit a domain, which is like a sort of subdomain hosted on Fermyon, you will see the moment I visit it and scroll, we get this install our app pop-up, right? Which is like a progressive web app. And progressive web apps work on an architecture where you have, if you want to deliver notifications or dispatch notifications with Firebase, you need to have a service worker installed. But not only this, we do a lot of interesting things with service worker, including our live streaming infrastructure and including like request manipulation on the fly. So there are a lot of things we have learned about service worker in general, which I would like to talk, but in some other video. But do check out Fermyon if you are a content creator and if you want to start your business online, if you're a business owner, and if you want a platform to manage everything. On Fermyon, we support a lot of interesting things, right? From creating courses to managing your community, course bundles, platforms, forms. This forms is, by the way, a new thing which we have released. So it's sort of like a Notion builder, right? But anyway, coming back to the actual discussion, which is like how the manifest thing is playing out. You can see like they are saying that service workers in general limit a lot of use cases, right? Especially around DOM related features and API. Additionally, the worker environment is not as familiar to regular web developers, and our developer community has expressed that completely rewriting extensions can be tedious for thousands of independent developers, right? So they have also decided to support event pages in MV3. Our developer preview will not include service workers. We will also support event pages in MV3 in an upcoming release. So what Chrome is trying to do is that it's trying to migrate, or it's trying to include MV3 as an option, but not at the cost of removing all the good APIs. Chrome, on the other hand, is taking a very aggressive approach in terms of security model and performance, and they are hiding it behind that. But we know for a fact that a large part of driving this decision is indeed the advertising revenue hit, which Google has been taking since the last decade or something, because of the power that it unknowingly gave Chrome extensions, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you learned something new in this. That is all for this one. If you like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video really soon.